The third lecture is from my dissertation. That's again another settlement in the peninsula, Seferihisar district of Izmir, and have you heard of the slow city movement, Città Slow, that started in Italy, which is a city-based movement that kind of argues that the local identity of the places should be preserved and the development projects should be introduced to these places to be fit with their cultural, political, economic agendas. So when in 2009 Seferihisar got into this network, small town network, but somehow the mayor used this brand in a rather fuzzy manner. So my presentation will be about the dilemmas of this network membership in Seferihisar. Let me again first show you kind of events that took place. They organized a producers market to promote local development, the use of local producers, consumption of local producers. The place of the bazaar was inside a historic citadel. Another organization was the Small Cattle Breeders Organization. This is the mayor. This is a seed festival. To encourage the use of local seeds and protection of local seeds. By the municipality. After being a member of this international network, slow city network. This is a protest against the tuna fish farms at the shores. International firms want to open up tuna fish farms, and those farms actually contaminate the seashores, and it's a since this is a touristic town, they don't want that contamination at the sea. They protest against it.
Where was it exactly?
It's in the again in the peninsula. I will show it right now. Okay. So I will talk about fuzzy presentation as a planning and a governance concept, but I will use it in a rather dual sense. Firstly, it is used with respect to Seferihisar's unique slow city membership experience in order to point out the misfits between what the model seems to suggest and its implementation in Seferihisar. It was a fuzzy experience. Secondly, fuzzy is taken as a new planning and governance concept that refers to a cloud of other concepts that have been widely accepted during the last 15 years, despite the fact that they are begging for clarity themselves. However, as I argue, these two senses of fuzzy end up converging and come to define the ultimate experience of any governance model whatsoever during the weird neoliberal times that we are living through. So that's again the Western Aegean coastal town, and this time we are here. We were here and there, and now we are at the southern part of the peninsula. In Turkey, the introduction of the subnational regional scale is a very recent issue accompanying Turkey's EU accession process, and following the landslide victory of the Justice and Development Party, Erdogan's party, in the general elections in 2002, the government initially seemed to commit itself to meet all the EU criteria on regional policy. The Ministry of Interior Affairs reviewed several European models of municipal cooperation to be advised as networks that can support the deeper integration of Turkey within the international community. Because in Turkey, municipalities require the Ministry of Interior Affairs authorization before even considering joining an international organization, and Çıttas law was conferred as a suitable cooperation network for smaller municipalities. Thus, although Çıttas law's entry into the Turkish municipal scene was enabled by the individual entrepreneurial efforts of the mayor, it's important to note that Slow City Çıttas Law Network is a government-approved and promoted network organization in Turkey. This is the logo of the network is snail, but in Turkish context, it's mostly understood as a snotty bug. They don't know the difference between the locals. So actually, there's also an expression that says selling snails in a Muslim neighborhood. So this whole model was kind of received in a negative manner in the beginning, and later on it wasn't again received in a well manner, but it kind of attracted tourists, so people were kind of okay with it. These are the recent local administration statute in chronological order. And let me clarify the contradictory effects of the recent local administration reforms. Following the enactment of the Scale Reform Law of 2004 on establishing districts in the borders of metropolitan municipalities and municipalities law of 2005, hundreds of municipalities like Seferihisar have lost most of their decision-making authority over the territory to metropolitan municipalities. So that law was also called a compass law, because taking the center, if with a compass you draw 50 kilometers circle, and then those places inside that circle pass their authorization towards the metropolitan municipality, so they don't get to decide over things about their territory. So Seferihisar remained inside that area. For example, Çeşme didn't, which is weird. I mean, Karaburun's only certain part remained inside. It's a totally nonsensical physical decision. And in Seferihisar, this situation desperately tied the hands of the local administration in putting plans into operation for the use and the development of their natural assets, such as the town's rich geothermal energy resources, and also decisions about any kind of heritage planning. There are a lot of antique ruins inside this town from the Greek Ionic period. With the same law, the two formerly second-tier municipalities have been incorporated as districts to the central municipality of Seferihisar, critically jeopardizing the subsidiarity principle in the provision of public services to these peripheral settlements. Although this is hardly reflected in figures here, due to the conflictual designation of what should be taken as urban or rural settlements, you cannot really understand that from our statistical bureau's information. And the same goes for the large military zone area in the middle of the district that disconnects the town center from the periphery. And due to this disconnection, vast natural and historical protection sites cannot be integrated into the everyday life of the residents, and sadly they are regarded as obstacles to the town's development, and unfortunately under threat by sabotage fires and other kinds of destruction. Moreover, Seferihisar is located on a major fault line, and there are over 200 unorganized summer house cooperatives in the district, which comprise disparate vulnerable settlements, some of them with serious infrastructural problems due to landslides on the shoreline. The seasonal in and out flux of the population in these secondary residence settlements also lead to social problems due to the weakened community ties, as well as exclusion and segregation due to the increase in the gated communities. So now let me briefly present what the Chitta Slow, or the Slow City Network, has to offer to this spatial planning and governance mess. Often referring to itself as a movement, this International Chitta Slow Association was started in 1999 by the mayor of Greve in Chianti in Italy, and was quickly embraced by the mayors of Bra, Positano and Orvieto. Today the association has 192 members in 29 countries. Seferihisar joined the association in November 2009 as the 121st member. Chitta Slow is closely linked with the slow food movement, and according to Paul Knox, who is one of the scientific committee members of this movement, it emerged as a spin-off of the slow food movement by the application of its principles at the city governance level. To become a member, towns need to have a population less than 50,000 and satisfy at least 50% of the 59 criteria stated in its charter. These criteria are grouped under 6 main headings, including environmental consciousness, support for local products, urban design and infrastructure, technologies and facilities for urban quality, hospitality, and embracing the Chitta Slow philosophy. Certification is given for 4 years. Member and candidate cities have to be strongly committed to sense of place and authentic identity, achieved via sensitive urban design and planning. Conservation of the built environment, supporting local industries and introducing modern mines, creating more green space and alternative transport, reducing visual and noise pollution, and growing local produce are the most important issues. In a 2003 interview, Stefano Cinici, the mayor of the Italian slow city Orvieto, and at the same time president of the slow movement, stressed that they want the association to become a player at the European level to make sure that the European Constitution being drawn up by Strasbourg takes into account the reality of small towns and cities, where small cities and towns, he believed, could potentially make an enormous contribution to a new model of good living. In order to be able to discuss the conditions that a politics of quality of life re-emerges as a counter-hegemonic struggle, reconnecting the policy-making elite to Europe's citizens, I believe it is important to properly characterize the theoretical complexity of the phenomenon in front of us in terms of a renewed dialectic between structure, that is the nation-states, new regionalisms, multiplication of institutional forms and regulatory mechanisms at the one side, and strategy, the class struggles, new social movements, middle class-based reflexive social action. Given the multifaceted problems of reconciliating a policy-laden reflexive institutional term with a value-laden politics of collective action, these new city-based governmental movements are mostly relying on the mobilizational capacities of its notable members. In that respect, the mayor's role is key in the designation of slow city character as a new political dynamic in town. Mayor of Seferihisar can be even be argued as the fuzzy mayor par excellence in both senses of the term I mentioned at the beginning. He is a notable urban elite figure within Izmir's wannabe world city pursuits. He served as the Secretary General of the Izmir Expo 2015 Executive Committee during the 3-year-long candidacy process, which entrusted him with extensive authority. A year after the Bureau of International Expositions announced that Milan would host the 2015 Expo, over-rival Izmir, Tunç Soyer, the mayor, ran on the Republican People's Party ticket in 2009, and he won and took the office in 2009, 31st of March. And right after 6 months, Seferihisar was chartered as the first slow city of Turkey, which also gave the city the status of the Chitta slow capital and coordinator. In the following couple of months, in 2010, the Chitta slow criteria has been quickly adopted and adapted by the Seferihisar municipality not only as a guide for action, but also in compensating for the general lack of identity in Seferihisar, which had been growingly experienced as a governance failure for the unsuccessful management of its distinguished natural and historical assets. Thus, Chitta slow was mobilized as an umbrella concept through which the municipal team, with members from the mayor's previous Expo candidacy team, started to coordinate and introduce several other projects, events and organizations in order to transform the town into a world city. In other words, the Chitta slow brand has been utilized to bring forth culture in its many senses as a year-long tourist attraction event, in the same manner that expos as mega events leveraged the restructuring of engaged cities. This also implied a transition to a new paradigm in town from a disciplinary vision of organization of labor to a communicational and event-based organization. One of the new directors found at the municipality during Soyer's term is the Directorate of Culture and Social Works, comprising of the most crowded office at the municipality to organize both the annual commemorative days and weeks of Seferihisar, and routinely conducted educational activities of the municipality for the residents of Seferihisar. Given the scale of municipality and strategic prominence to organizing events by the mayor, it would not be inappropriate to say that the whole municipality is run like a Directorate of Culture and Social Works, only shifting their duty priorities according to the agendas of the calendar. And the municipality personnel admit that they experience this as an exhausting, ongoing, total mobilization mode, which inevitably distracts the everyday efforts to form a participation-based steering platform for the Chitta slow. Here. In his second year speech, the mayor has referred to Sığacık, which is the most showcase settlement of the whole district. He mentioned that he saw this place as a showcase of the whole district and whose task was to attract the customers inside the shop. Quote, the customer has entered the shop. Sığacık accomplished the task. Now the next step is to tour the customer inside the shop, unquote. In terms of building an overall city governance regime, however, this role put Sığacık in a contemptuously privileged status with respect to both central town and the peripheral settlements. This is where Sığacık is. This is the whole Seferihisar, and Sığacık is famous for its small castle, and there's a settlement inside it. But there's also a huge marina next to it, and these are the places for the bluefin farms, which I showed the protest video in the beginning. So In terms of building an overall city governance regime, this role put Seljuk in a privileged status. The other parts of the city actually didn't like it, and they openly expressed their discontent about the regarding of Çittaslov as the sole economic imaginary of the whole district. Even the rural village settlements that step afront with their potential settings to realize such place-bound economic initiatives like agrotourism currently look upon more conventional mass employment investments in the region to prevent the younger population from moving out. The first Çittaslov festival was organized as a two-day activity that started with the protest meeting of the bluefin tuna fish farms. The protest was observed as a strategic event in itself to consolidate Seferihisar's mode of governance as much in the eye of central authorities as in the general public. It was organized on the occasion of the controversial approval decision of the Izmir General Provincial Council to set up a bluefin tuna fish farm at a few kilometers off the coast of Seljuk. The head of the city council explained that buses were sent to every other district of Izmir to carry 1,000 city council members to Seferihisar on the day of the protest. Greenpeace and several bicycle groups from Izmir were also invited to provide support to the protest. However, the local people were quite indifferent to the event. Neither did they participate in the creation of a romanticized image of the residents battling growth machines. The bluefin tuna fish farm protest was in fact the post-spectacular event in its attracting the attention of the target classes to Seferihisar, whose future intermittent corporeal co-presence in the town would have a sustainable economic influence on its own, enabling the mayor at the same time to argue for a place-bound economy as an appropriate governance mechanism, albeit with a considerably fuzzy appropriation of the Çittaslov brand. The problems that arise at this point are twofold. On the one hand, the seaside neighborhood of Seljuk, with its population of 2,400, currently inhabited historical castle and closeness to the ancient city of Tios, is the only appropriate urban settlement in the whole district to potentially comply with the Çittaslov place-bound economy model. On the other hand, while the settlement of Seljuk holds the only proper potential, the opening of a yacht marina by the initiatives of the earlier mayor as a large-scale self-serving facility confounds the current economic efforts that are wishfully hoping to remain place-bound. For example, the opening of a local bazaar area created huge interest by the Izmirlites coming in the weekends, but that also caused a traffic which meant pollution at the same time. This is again from the bazaar. And the worst part of the branding mechanism was that this certain firms used this logo and the overall concept to sell their new developments. You can see that the logo is used and the whole idea is used as a theme to sell this new development. And you can see that the meter squares are huge, but they don't really give you the house. They just sell the plot, and they want you to dream as if everything exists. And the brand and the lifestyle fostered by the mayor kind of works together with their real estate understanding, which is a very sad thing. In that sense, my main findings from the field confirmed that the innovative character of Seferihisar regarding this Çittaslov movement and the importance of the mayor who introduced Çittaslov to the city and took political pride in it. After the designation in 2010, a master plan was prepared for Seferihisar in collaboration with a local university. In the following years, Seferihisar implemented many innovative programs. Among these projects, the most important ones focused on organic agriculture and the empowering of women. Seferihisar now has several organic produce markets where local farmers sell the produce. The market in the center is open 6 days a week. On Sundays, there is another market is set up in the historic Citadel neighborhood of Seljuk. Not only farmers, but also women sell different type of crafts and food, which help establish Seljuk as an important weekend destination for people. Other projects include the Sea Trade Festival, a restaurant for local cuisine, gathering places for women like coffee houses, cycling lanes, blue ribbon beaches, support for sustainable fishing, initiatives for the public use of geothermal energy resources, and conservation of the antique city of Chios. On the other hand, all these initiatives and policy decisions were taken in the hierarchy of councils or committees and communicated to the public for their involvement. Based on the interviews with local residents, one can understand that although there are attempts to involve the public in the decision-making processes and the Çittaslov has a positive impact on the quality of life in Seferihisar, the public still feels that they are not part of the process and concerned about impacts of the population growth to the city's small town character. Similarly, given the privileged role of the producers' market in Seljuk in the branding of Seferihisar, the mechanism for trickling down the increased total venue seems a critical issue, particularly regarding the branding aspect that had increased the overall rent of the city. The mechanisms for returning that surplus back to all the segments of the society are not quite in place, nor in the scope of the mayor's future agenda. Yeah, this is more a governance-based lecture towards the use of cultural assets.